Hey everyone, welcome to Quantum Mind Hub Stories. Please remember share your thoughts, perspectives, and lessons learned down in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share this story with your friends. Your support means a lot. Now let's jump into this gripping tale. Daniel spots Elena for the first time in a bustling college hallway. He's rushing to class, arms full of heavy textbooks, when he nearly bumps into her. She's busy studying a campus map, looking a bit confused. Their eyes meet, and there's an instant flicker of warmth. He can't help but notice her bright, hopeful smile that contrasts with her nervous expression. She's new to the college, and he offers to show her around. Elena's thankful for the help. She's majoring in marketing, hoping to intern somewhere creative. Daniel, on the other hand, is studying business administration and dreams of starting his own company someday. From that very first moment, it feels like fate nudged them together. They chat about their ambitions. Daniel confesses he wants to make a mark in the tech industry, but he's unsure if anyone would believe in his ideas. Elena empathizes. She's also hunting for her big break, but resources are tight. Her parents can't afford fancy tuition or lavish living expenses, so she works part-time at a local cafe to manage bills. Something about Elena's quiet determination pulls Daniel in. He admires how she doesn't complain about her struggles. She just tackles life head-on, trusting that things will work out if she pushes hard enough. Meanwhile, Elena finds Daniel's passion refreshing. Most people she's met seem more into parties and fleeting fun, but Daniel is focused on building a future. The two start hanging out between classes. They study together in the library, bond over late-night coffee runs, and share small dreams they've never told anyone else. This friendship quickly deepens into something more profound. They're both young, driven, and hopeful, and it feels like destiny has planted a spark that's about to grow into a brilliant flame. Within weeks, Daniel and Elena's friendship morphs into an undeniable attraction. He notices how her laughter can brighten even the gloomiest day. She discovers that his encouragement lifts her spirits whenever she feels discouraged. They begin to form a partnership that's both romantic and supportive. One evening, they're tucked away in the corner of the campus cafe. Elena's scribbling marketing ideas on a napkin. Daniel is reviewing potential investors for a small software project he wants to pitch. She glances at him and quietly says, "You know, you're the most ambitious person I've ever met." He smiles and replies, "Your faith in me keeps me going." It's not just sweet words. They pour energy into their goals, often helping each other with assignments and projects. When Daniel needs feedback on a business proposal, Elena offers her insights. When Elena needs a calm voice to ease her nerves before a big presentation, Daniel is there. It's a synergy they've never experienced before. Rumors around campus swirl that they're the power couple in the making. Some classmates tease Daniel for always talking about Elena's kindness, while others tease Elena for calling Daniel her future CEO. But neither seems to mind the jokes. They're too engrossed in the rush of possibilities. They have their share of small clashes, arguments over scheduling, or petty misunderstandings. But each time, they come back stronger. They learn to speak openly, forgiving each other's flaws. Their budding romance becomes a beacon of hope for everyone around them, showing how two dreamers can prop each other up. Then, on a starry night after finals, Daniel surprises Elena with a simple question, "Would you be my girlfriend?" She smiles so wide tears threaten to spill, and she says yes, feeling like the luckiest girl in the world. And just like that, the spark between them ignites into a beautiful, unstoppable flame. After college, Daniel lands a small investor meeting for his startup idea. He's jittery, practically trembling at the possibility of turning his dream into reality. Elena stands by his side, calming his nerves and reviewing his pitch deck once more. She's taken an entry-level marketing job to make ends meet, but her heart is set on bigger ventures. A few weeks later, Elena gets an exciting email. She's been offered a prestigious opportunity to work at a well-known marketing firm in a different state. It's the kind of role that could catapult her career. She's beyond thrilled and rushes to share the news with Daniel. But on that same day, Daniel also shares a breakthrough. A major investor wants him to move to the city where his startup can get mentorship. His eyes sparkle with hope, convinced this is his shot at something big. Elena notices his exhilaration and knows he's on the cusp of greatness. She hesitates, weighing her own offer against Daniel's chance to see his vision flourish. Eventually, she makes a decision that shows just how deep her love runs. She declines her dream job. She packs her bags and moves with Daniel to the new city to help him build his company. He's overwhelmed by her support, promising that one day he'll repay her for her sacrifice. Elena believes him, trusting that love and loyalty will guide them both to success. While Daniel hustles for meetings, coding until dawn and meeting potential partners, Elena takes on multiple roles. She handles administrative tasks, helps out with marketing strategies, and even brings home extra income from freelance gigs. It's exhausting, but she never complains. She's convinced their sacrifices now will lead to a future that's far brighter than they can even imagine. Daniel's startup initially operates out of a cramped garage space. There are wires everywhere, half-finished prototypes on desks, and a tiny whiteboard scrawled with complicated software diagrams. Elena's there answering emails, making phone calls, and ensuring nobody forgets to eat. They live in a modest one-bedroom apartment, pinned with sticky notes filled with daily goals. She crafts social media campaigns to draw attention to Daniel's new app. Every time he faces a rejection, she reminds him of the glowing feedback they've already received from beta users. They learn that building a company from the ground up is a marathon, not a sprint. Late nights turn into early mornings. Elena starts feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders, but she forces a smile every time Daniel looks stressed. Their dinner conversations often revolve around product updates, investor leads, and pitch deck improvements. In those moments, Elena sometimes aches for simpler, more carefree days. Still, she pushes on, watching Daniel's dream inch closer to reality. One of those nights, Daniel gazes at the flickering overhead light and says, "We're so close, but I feel like I'm letting you down." Elena shakes her head and replies softly, "Don't say that. I believe in what we're doing. And I believe in you." Their gazes lock in mutual understanding. This isn't just about money or prestige. It's about proving to themselves and maybe the world that two underdogs can rise if they hold on tight to each other. When a small round of funding finally arrives, they celebrate with cheap pizza. It's not glamorous, but they're beyond grateful. That night, Elena looks at Daniel and senses that despite the exhaustion, neither one would trade this journey for anything else. Together, they're building not just a company, but a testament to their unwavering bond. It's a chilly autumn evening. Daniel and Elena have just wrapped up a successful demo day for potential investors. They're walking through a quiet park, leaves crunching underfoot. Elena's mind is still spinning with the day's adrenaline, but Daniel seems uncharacteristically quiet. Suddenly, he halts by a small fountain. He fumbles with something in his pocket, and before Elena can ask what's wrong, he drops to one knee. Her breath catches. She thinks maybe he's joking. He has a playful side until he carefully pulls out a simple silver ring. "Elena," he begins, voice shaking. "I can't promise you a mansion or diamond chandeliers right now, but I can promise that I'll love you every single day. Through every struggle, every victory, and everything in between. Will you marry me?" Tears spring to her eyes and she nods, overwhelmed by emotion. This isn't a luxurious scene with rose petals or a fancy photographer lurking around. It's a raw, humble gesture, perfectly reflecting how far they've come together. Elena can barely speak. She whispers, "Yes, of course," feeling a wave of relief and joy wash over her. Daniel slips the ring onto her finger and it fits just right. They stand up, hugging tightly while the cold breeze rustles the fallen leaves. Her heart pounds with excitement. Deep down, Elena knows they're still strapped for cash and that any wedding would be a modest affair. But she doesn't care. She just wants to spend the rest of her life with this man who fought so hard for his dreams and appreciated every sacrifice she made. That night, she can't stop glancing at the small ring. It's a symbol of love built on loyalty and shared ambition, a quiet vow that their future is going to shine much brighter than anything they've left behind. They hold the ceremony in a small community church near their apartment. There's no grand entrance, no elaborate decor. Instead, they decorate the aisle with handmade paper flowers and Elena's closest friends contribute potluck dishes for the reception. Daniel's business partners chip in for some decent champagne. It may be simple, but it's brimming with love. Elena wears a white dress she found at a thrift store and altered herself. Daniel borrows a suit from one of his friends, hoping nobody notices it's a size too big. But when he sees her walking down the aisle, none of that matters. His heart almost leaps out of his chest. She's radiant, glowing with happiness. During the vows, Daniel's voice cracks. He promises Elena he'll be her partner in every way, that he'll stand by her no matter how crazy life gets. Elena tearfully pledges to keep believing in him, never forgetting the dreams they birthed together. By the time they exchange rings, nearly everyone in the small gathering is wiping tears. Afterward, the reception is a simple backyard setup. Friends joke that it feels like a college reunion, complete with sing-alongs and last-minute toasts. Elena and Daniel can't stop smiling, feeding each other slices of a modest cake. In that cozy gathering, it feels like they're the richest people in the world. Later that night, they dance under string lights. As the music plays softly, Elena rests her head on Daniel's shoulder. She can feel his heart beating, strong and steady against her cheek. They have no idea the challenges that lie ahead. All they know is that this moment is pure joy, a celebration of a love that triumphed over every sacrifice so far. And with that, they embark on a new chapter of their shared life, hopeful and ready for anything. It happens slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. Daniel's startup gains traction. Investors pour in more money. They move out of their small garage into a sleek office space downtown. Suddenly, Daniel's schedule is packed with travel, board meetings, and endless phone calls. Elena's still working behind the scenes, handling marketing tasks and providing quiet support, but she senses a subtle shift in Daniel's priorities. He starts coming home later and later, each time with a reason. That investor dinner ran long, or I had an emergency call with a new client. Elena tries to be understanding. This is what they worked so hard for after all. But a nagging feeling in her chest tells her they're slipping into a different realm, one where success can overshadow personal connections. One night, Elena prepares a special homemade meal to celebrate landing a new partnership. She decorates the table with candles, picks up some fresh flowers, little touches she knows he once appreciated. But Daniel texts an hour after he's supposed to be home, got dragged into a late meeting. Sorry. She stares at the phone, feeling a sting of disappointment. She starts noticing new names popping up on Daniel's phone. Advisors, bankers, people with influence. His world is expanding, and she's worried she's no longer part of the center. Even their weekend breakfasts, a treasured tradition, become rushed affairs as he dashes off to meet some new contact or attend a tech conference. Though she never complains loudly, Elena confides in a friend one afternoon, I'm proud of him, I really am, but sometimes I wonder, do I even factor into his life now that everything's taking off? Her friend suggests it's just a phase, but deep down, Elena feels the ground trembling beneath her feet, signaling cracks she can't ignore. Late at night, Elena finds herself alone in the spacious new condo they purchased after the startup's first profitable quarter. She wanders through the modern kitchen, remembering how they used to cook side by side in their tiny apartment. That warmth seems lost now in the sleek, polished environment. Daniel often returns well after midnight, exhausted and preoccupied. Elena tries to greet him with a smile. Sometimes he responds with a quick peck on her cheek before muttering, I'm wiped. Let's talk tomorrow. Other times, he's too tired for anything beyond a grunt. Elena starts feeling like a stranger in her own home. One particularly cold night, she waits up for him. She paces the living room, glancing at the clock every few minutes, heart heavy with worry. When he finally walks through the door, she gently asks if they can spend some quality time over the weekend. He sighs, eyes drooping, and says, I'll try. But the board is breathing down my neck for another round of funding. Unable to hide her disappointment, she quietly retreats. Lying awake in bed, she stares at the ceiling, remembering the carefree days when just sitting together on the old couch felt perfect. Now, they have money for fancy dinners and fancy furniture, but none of that seems to bring real comfort. During another lonely evening, she writes a note to him, pouring out her feelings about how disconnected they've become. But she's too nervous to leave it where he can see. Instead, she hides it in a desk drawer, telling herself she'll talk to him in person eventually. Days turn into weeks, and that conversation never quite happens. The space between them keeps growing, filling with silence and unsaid words. One weekend, Elena musters the courage to plan a romantic getaway. She books a cozy cabin by a lake, hoping to recreate some spark from their early days. She pictures them hiking by the water, sipping coffee on the wooden deck, and finally having those long, heartfelt talks that drew them close in the first place. When she excitedly tells Daniel about her idea, He barely looks up from his laptop. Sounds nice, he says, typing away. But I've got this important launch event in 2 weeks. Maybe after that. Elena's shoulders slump. She tries to hide her frustration and agrees to postpone. She can't remember the last time he set work aside just for them. At the office, she notices Daniel rarely consults her anymore. He's surrounded by a new circle of people. Brand experts, high-powered lawyers, and PR specialists. They talk about corporate strategies that sound distant and polished. When Elena tries to chime in with a suggestion, she often feels brushed aside. At home, conversations become shorter. They pass each other in hallways, exchanging quick, "How was your day?" before diving back into emails or phone calls. Elena worries if she presses too hard. He'll say she's unsupportive of his success. So she holds back her feelings, thinking maybe this is just a growth phase every successful couple experiences. But as days roll on, she feels like a ghost. She's physically present yet barely seen. The man who once made sure to ask how she was doing, who once cherished her opinions above all else, now seems to be off in his own universe of deals and deadlines. Elena aches for any small sign that he still values her as a partner, not just an afterthought. That loneliness seeps into her every breath, turning once warm evenings into cold, silent nights. It starts innocently enough. Daniel's business partner mentions a brilliant new marketing director who could skyrocket their public image. Her name is Amelia. She's young, creative, and rumored to have a knack for dazzling investors. Daniel schedules a meeting, thinking it'll just be a standard recruitment chat. From the moment Amelia walks into the boardroom, she exudes confidence. She's polished, articulate, and immediately impresses Daniel with her innovative ideas to expand the brand globally. He can't deny how effectively she commands the room. After their talk, he feels invigorated, convinced she'll be a valuable asset to the team. Amelia joins the company and they begin working closely. Late-night strategy sessions become the norm. She's always ready with a fresh perspective or a witty remark to lighten the tension. Daniel, who has felt swamped by stress, starts to feel a sense of relief in her presence. She understands the corporate lingo, shares his obsession with growth metrics, and never criticizes him for putting work first. Elena notices Amelia's name popping up more frequently in Daniel's schedule: lunches, investor meetings, marketing huddles. She asks Daniel if Amelia's advice might overlap with her own marketing contributions. He shrugs and says, well, Amelia's operating at a different level right now, focusing on high-stakes deals. Don't worry about it. Elena feels a pang of hurt. She wonders if her own marketing background is now deemed insignificant. At a company function, Amelia compliments Elena's outfit in passing. It's polite, but there's a subtle air of dismissiveness. Elena can't shake off a strange feeling about Amelia, but she has no solid proof that anything is amiss. She just senses that a shift is taking place, one that may soon pit her own place in Daniel's heart against an unstoppable corporate powerhouse named Amelia. Amelia's presence grows in Daniel's life with each passing week. They talk about marketing objectives, future expansions, and sometimes share personal stories about their career journeys. They're not overtly flirting, but there's a certain electricity in their exchanges. Late one night, Daniel and Amelia wrap up a meeting with potential investors. Amelia suggests grabbing a quick bite to decompress. He figures it's harmless. Over a small table at a chic restaurant, they talk more about their backgrounds. Daniel finds himself opening up about the pressure he faces. How everyone expects him to keep the company growing at breakneck speed. Amelia listens intently, nodding with empathy. She praises his leadership, insists he has the vision to take the company global. This validation feels new to Daniel. Lately, Elena's emotional distance, born of hurt and neglect, has made their interactions strained. But Amelia seems to fill that gap, offering him comfort without the baggage of past sacrifices. He doesn't recognize it as a form of betrayal yet. He just feels momentarily at ease. When he gets home that night, Elena is asleep on the couch, evidently waiting up for him again. He briefly looks at her and feels a jolt of guilt. But then he remembers Amelia's comforting words and pushes the guilt aside, convincing himself he did nothing wrong. In the following days, Amelia becomes his go-to person for any business dilemma. She's quick with a clever solution, never judging his long work hours. They text constantly, exchanging ideas and jokes that Elena never sees. He rationalizes it's all professional. Yet he's aware that a certain line is getting blurred. The real tragedy is that no matter how unintentional, Daniel is drifting further from Elena. seeking solace in a connection that's not just about work anymore. Tension has been brewing at home. Elena feels neglected, and Daniel senses her resentment but doesn't want to address it. One evening, Elena suggests they finally take that weekend getaway. She's at the end of her rope and believes time alone might salvage what's left of their bond. Daniel, fresh from another draining day at the office, snaps, "I don't have time for a getaway. Why can't you understand the pressures I'm under?" Elena's eyes fill with tears, but she refuses to back down. "I've been by your side from the start. All I want is one weekend. One moment where I'm not playing second fiddle to your board meetings or your new marketing director." The mention of Amelia sparks a fire in Daniel. He accuses Elena of being insecure and paranoid. "Amelia's not the problem," he yells. "Your constant complaints are." The argument escalates into an emotional whirlwind, each accusing the other of failing to support. Elena finally blurts out, "When's the last time you asked how I'm doing? Or cared about my dreams? You're so busy impressing everyone else that you've forgotten who built this with you." That cuts deep. Daniel fires back, "Maybe if you tried to keep up, you'd see how much is at stake. Not everything revolves around your feelings." His voice cracks, revealing a strain he's never shown before. In that heated moment, something in Elena snaps. She can't believe how far they've drifted from the love story that began in a tiny college dorm. She storms out of the room, tears streaming down her face. By the next morning, the house feels empty and cold. Words said in anger hang in the air, impossible to take back. This final argument marks the breaking point, setting them on a path neither anticipated. A painful separation that might be the end of their marriage. News of Daniel and Elena's split hit social media and the gossip columns not long after. The startup world loves a good rags to riches story, and their marriage was part of that fairy tale. So when rumors circulate that the beloved couple is on rocky ground, people take notice. Tabloids frame it as the founder's marriage in crisis, or behind the scenes, tech moguls split. Daniel's PR team scrambles to do damage control, but the story gains momentum. Investors start to worry that personal drama could disrupt the company's success. Colleagues whisper about Elena's sudden absence, wondering if she'll demand a huge settlement or reveal damaging secrets. A few see her as a threat to the firm's stability. Meanwhile, Elena's world collapses. She's alone in a small apartment now, just a few boxes of her personal belongings stacked against the walls. She avoids social media because every post or article that references her failed marriage feels like a knife to the heart. She wonders if her years of sacrifice will just be a footnote in Daniel's rising fortune. When a journalist reaches out, wanting her side of the story, she refuses to comment. She doesn't want to fan the flames. Despite her silence, the scandal intensifies. Reporters dig up old photos of their college days and wedding pictures, trying to piece together the real reason behind the split. Some claim it's about money. Others hint at a suspected infidelity. Every time Elena sees Daniel's face on a headline, she feels a mix of longing and bitterness. This is the man she once adored, the man she believed would always stand by her. Now he's becoming a public figure, overshadowed by scandal and rumor. It's a harsh awakening that the world she helped him build might carry on without her, erasing her from the narrative entirely. Late one evening, Elena senses something's off. She's been feeling nauseous and fatigued for days. At first, she assumes it's the stress from the separation, but a tiny voice in her head urges her to take a pregnancy test. She buys one from a nearby pharmacy, her heart hammering as she waits for the result. When the test shows 2 lines, she nearly collapses from the emotional hit. She's pregnant. She sits on the bathroom floor, tears streaming down her cheeks, mind racing through every possible scenario. A baby means her life is about to change forever again. But she's no longer part of Daniel's life in any real sense. She wonders if she should tell him or if it's too late to fix anything between them. Staring at her reflection in the mirror, she sees a woman torn between heartbreak and responsibility. She thinks about how much she once believed in Daniel and how their love formed the foundation of their shared dreams. Even though he hurt her, a part of her still cares deeply. But her pride won't let her rush back into his arms, especially when it seems his ambitions have already overshadowed everything else. Over the next few days, she visits a clinic for confirmation. The ultrasound solidifies it. She's indeed carrying Daniel's child. In that moment, she feels a fierce protective instinct. She makes a quiet vow to herself. No matter what happens, she'll do everything possible to care for this baby. At night, she rests a hand on her stomach, thinking of the life growing inside her. Fear mixes with a strange hope. She imagines a future where the child might mend some of the heartbreak, or at least offer a new start for her own life. But she also dreads the moment she might have to face Daniel with the news, uncertain how he'll react, or if he even deserves to know. Elena tries to pull herself together. She knows she can't keep living in limbo. She picks up a part-time job at a local bakery to cover her basic expenses. It's physically taxing work. Early mornings, standing on her feet for hours, but it's the only steady option she can find quickly. She tries to eat healthy, attend her prenatal appointments, and maintain a semblance of normality, but it's tough. Her budget is tight, and the emotional weight is crushing. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, she wonders if she made a mistake not telling Daniel right away. Other times, she thinks she's doing the right thing by protecting herself from more heartbreak. The bakery owner, Mrs. Rodriguez, notices Elena's pale complexion and how she sometimes winces, hand on her back. "Are you feeling okay?" she asks one morning. Elena forces a smile, nodding that she's fine. She doesn't want pity or more questions. She's determined to stand on her own at least until she figures out if Daniel should be part of the baby's future. Occasionally, she scrolls through online articles about Daniel's company. She sees photos of him and Amelia at flashy events. There's even talk of them as the new power duo. Every time she sees those pictures, a fresh wave of hurt rolls over her. She's carrying his child while he's off living the high life. At her next prenatal checkup, she finds out she's farther along than she initially thought. The realization sends a chill down her spine. She can't hide this forever. The baby bump will soon make her secret obvious. Sitting in the waiting room, she places a hand on her growing belly, whispering quietly, "It's just you and me for now." In that fragile moment, she resolves to protect her unborn child from a world that seems intent on ignoring her very existence. Daniel and Amelia's relationship shifts from strictly professional to something more personal. It starts with an after-work dinner that turns into a late-night stroll. Amelia confides in Daniel about her own past struggles and ambitions. He feels a sense of kinship, convinced she understands him in ways Elena never did. At least, that's what he tells himself. Before long, they're publicly seen together at social functions. Talk swirls around them. Some say Daniel has found the perfect match, a savvy, driven partner who can match his pace. Others gossip that Amelia's capitalizing on Daniel's fragile emotional state. Whatever the case, the high society crowd loves a juicy story. They become the subject of endless speculation and enthralling headlines. Elena hears the whispers at her bakery job. Customers chit-chat about the new power couple in town, never realizing that the woman behind the counter was once Daniel's wife. She pretends not to hear, feeling each mention like a fresh stab in the gut. She's trying to move on, but it's hard to sever an emotional bond that took years to build. Meanwhile, Daniel finds momentary peace in Amelia's upbeat presence. They travel for business conferences, share fancy dinners with influential people, and navigate big decisions for the company. He's aware that his personal life has become a spectacle. Yet, part of him relishes the attention. He's no longer just the guy who built a startup from nothing. He's the glamorous CEO with a high-powered partner. Despite the thrill, Daniel sometimes notices an emptiness gnawing at him late at night. He recalls the humble days with Elena, the simple wedding, and her unwavering faith. But he shakes those thoughts off, telling himself the new relationship is what he needs. He's been rebranded as a man who never looks back, convinced that progress means leaving the past behind, even if that past holds the key to real happiness. Time marches on quickly. Daniel and Amelia decide to tie the knot in a grand ceremony. The press buzzes with excitement. This wedding promises to be the social event of the year, lavish decorations, exclusive guest lists, and a venue that screams opulence. High-profile chefs, designer floral arrangements, and a custom-made gown for Amelia all highlight their new status. Invitations go out and the media speculates about every detail. Which celebrities might attend? How much will the wedding cost? Few people pause to consider the emotional carnage left in the wake of Daniel's first marriage. Meanwhile, Elena tries to avoid the gossip, but it's almost impossible. She overhears customers chatting excitedly about the upcoming IT couple wedding, not realizing she's the ex-wife still picking up her shattered pieces. Still pregnant and struggling financially, Elena finds herself haunted by memories of her own wedding day. It was small and intimate, free of pomp but filled with genuine love. She recalls the vows they shared, promises Daniel now seems to have discarded as easily as an old business plan. As her belly grows, she feels a surge of protectiveness for her unborn child. Even if Daniel has moved on, she still has to survive, for the baby's sake. Days before the big wedding, a catering company the bakery collaborates with calls Elena in for help. They need extra hands serving at a large event. Elena only sees it as a chance to earn crucial money, unaware of whose wedding she'll be working. She's juggling bills, rent, and doctor's appointments, so she reluctantly agrees. Little does she know, fate is about to thrust her into the most painful showdown of her life. One that will shock everyone, including Daniel himself. The day of the wedding, Elena is dressed in a simple caterer's uniform, her hair tucked under a cap. She tries to hide her baby bump as best she can, worrying the job might be at risk if they realize she's heavily pregnant. The atmosphere buzzes with excitement, guests milling about in designer suits and gowns, live music wafting through the air. She's assigned to clear tables, fill glasses, and make sure every corner of the venue is spotless. At first, she manages to stay in the background, focusing on her tasks. But then someone from her team tells her to step out onto the main floor to help. She moves quietly, praying no one recognizes her. She spots Amelia in a stunning bridal gown, laughing with a group of socialites. Then her eyes land on Daniel, standing tall in his tailored tuxedo. The sight nearly robs Elena of breath. An older guest waves to get Elena's attention, asking for a refill. As she approaches the table, Daniel turns his head and locks eyes with her. For a moment, time seems to freeze. Shock floods his face. He blinks as if trying to confirm it's really her. And then he notices her pregnant belly. His expression shifts from disbelief to horror to something indescribable. Guilt, fear, regret all swirling at once. Elena's heart hammers. She thinks of dropping the glass and running. But her legs feel like lead. She stands there, struggling to keep composure while guests around her remain oblivious to the storm brewing between them. All at once, she can't decide which feeling is stronger, shame at being reduced to a server at her ex-husband's wedding or heartbreak that he's standing just a few feet away about to marry someone else. The silent clash of their gazes holds a lifetime of pain and a future that's about to be irrevocably altered. Daniel's mind races. He can't breathe properly as he takes in Elena's pregnant form. The swirl of wedding guests, the music, the luxurious decor, it all fades into a dull roar. He realizes in a flash that she never told him. She's been carrying his child, working as a server at his wedding to another woman. His immediate urge is to pull her aside, demand answers, or maybe beg for forgiveness. But the ceremony is about to begin, and Amelia's calling for him. The moment is excruciating. He manages to slip a quick word to a nearby coordinator, instructing them to direct Elena to a private lounge as soon as possible. He can't just let her vanish without understanding what's happening. Elena, flustered, tries to keep her head down. She senses Daniel wants to speak with her. Panic rushes through her veins, but a part of her also needs closure. He deserves to know the truth about the child. She follows the coordinator to a small side room, heart pounding the whole way. While the guests settle into their seats, Daniel quickly excuses himself, pretending to check on a last-minute detail. He ducks into the lounge, closing the door behind him. When he sees Elena standing there, he struggles to form words. She meets his gaze, tears brimming in her eyes, both of them uncertain how to begin. "Why didn't you tell me?" he finally manages to whisper, voice cracking. Elena shakes her head, torn between anger and heartbreak. "After everything that happened, I didn't think you'd care." Their voices tremble, carrying years of lost love and mounting tension. The world outside expects Daniel to walk down the aisle any minute, but in this small room he stands on the brink of a revelation that could change everything. In that private lounge, the past collides with the present. Daniel stares at Elena, and in a heartbeat he's flooded with memories, their first meeting in college, the nights they spent poring over business plans in a cramped garage, the vows they exchanged during their humble wedding. He recalls how she held him when he was sick, how she gave up her own dream job to stand by his side. Elena can see the turmoil in his eyes, and for a second she remembers the man who once promised her a lifetime of partnership and respect. She feels a pang of longing, overwhelmed by the enormity of what they've lost. Their voices stay hushed as they try to make sense of the present. Daniel tries to explain he never intended to abandon her. "Things got crazy," he says, struggling. "I was drowning in work, in expectations. He stops, realizing how hollow those words sound now that he sees her pregnant, working a catering job. Elena trembles with repressed pain. You were so focused on the company, on Amelia, on your big dreams. I became invisible. I didn't want to beg for your attention anymore. She wipes away angry tears, trying to stay composed for the baby's sake. Outside, the wedding music starts playing, the cue for Daniel and Amelia to stand at the altar. In here, though, time stands still. Neither of them can ignore the truth. They've hurt each other beyond measure, and now an innocent child is involved. This isn't just about them anymore. Finally, the coordinator knocks on the door, urging Daniel to join the ceremony. He's torn, pulled between a wedding that's about to start and a past that refuses to let him go. For the first time in a long while, Daniel's priorities hang in the balance, and he's not sure which path leads to salvation or complete ruin. Daniel knows the wedding can't proceed without him, but he also can't abandon Elena in that room. He quietly tells her, I need to finish this. Wait here. She nods, numb, not quite sure what he intends to finish. Amelia, waiting at the altar, notices something's amiss. Guests fidget, whispering about why the groom is delayed. Finally, Daniel appears, but he looks shaken. He steps forward, meets Amelia's confused gaze, and hesitates. The officiant clears his throat, trying to proceed with the ceremony, but Daniel raises a hand. A ripple of murmurs spreads through the crowd. In a low, trembling voice, Daniel says, I'm sorry, Amelia. Something happened that I have to deal with right now. Her eyes widen in shock, and the audience collectively gasps. The tension skyrockets as Daniel leaves the altar, ignoring the shocked stares and muffled cries of surprise. He returns to the lounge, but Elena isn't there anymore. She got spooked when she heard the commotion outside. Unsure what was happening, she slipped away, not wanting an even bigger scene. Panicked, Daniel runs through the venue, calling out her name. He scans the crowd of well-dressed guests and busy staff until he finally spots her at the exit, tears streaming down her face. Pushing through the throng of onlookers, he catches her by the arm. She tries to shake free, but he pleads, Elena, don't go. We need to talk about this. About the baby. His voice is raw, filled with a desperation she's never heard before. She wavers, uncertain whether to trust him. The entire wedding is left in chaos behind them, with Amelia abandoned at the altar, scandalized guests, and a hush that foreshadows the whirlwind about to unfold in the public eye. The media latches onto the dramatic wedding fiasco. Within hours, headline after headline blasts out. Tech mogul abandons bride at altar, secret pregnancy sparks wedding chaos, and high society scandal, the ex-wife returns. Paparazzi swarm the venue, capturing Amelia's furious exit and Daniel's frantic chase after Elena. Social media erupts in debates. Some people shame Daniel for leaving Amelia, calling him fickle or heartless. Others empathize with Elena, praising her for surviving hardship and exposing Daniel's neglect. Still others pity Amelia, the wealthy fiancée humiliated on her big day. In a matter of hours, the story of Daniel's personal life overshadows all his business accomplishments. Inside the company, the board is livid. They fear plummeting stock values and want to minimize the scandal's damage. Daniel receives frantic calls demanding an explanation. Investors threaten to withdraw funding unless he addresses the crisis. Meanwhile, Amelia, feeling betrayed and humiliated, blasts him in the press, implying that Elena orchestrated this entire spectacle. Daniel's phone rings nonstop, but he ignores most calls. He's more concerned about finding Elena and making sense of this sudden upheaval. He tracks her down at her small apartment, pushing past the paparazzi stationed outside, and begs her to let him in. She reluctantly agrees, not wanting another public scene. Once inside, Daniel sees how humble her living situation is. Just a few pieces of worn furniture and plain walls. He feels a crushing weight of guilt. While he's been reveling in luxury, Elena's been struggling, pregnant, and alone. They sit in the cramped living room, ignoring the camera flashes outside the window, trying to have a conversation that's been deferred for far too long. Amelia's anger blazes across every news outlet. She calls Daniel's actions unforgivable and distances herself from him immediately. Through well-placed interviews, she paints herself as the victim of a twisted love triangle. She claims she had no idea Elena was pregnant or that Daniel was still emotionally entangled with his ex-wife. Investors read these interviews with alarm, wondering if Daniel can still lead effectively. Rumors fly that Amelia may file a lawsuit against Daniel for the wedding costs or claim emotional damages. No one is sure what she'll do next, but her public condemnation of Daniel is swift and brutal. Overnight, she becomes a sympathetic figure to many, leveraging the media's attention to keep her professional reputation intact. Behind closed doors, though, Amelia sends Daniel a barrage of messages, some filled with rage, others with pleas for him to reconsider. She accuses him of betrayal, calls Elena a master manipulator, and demands an explanation he can't fully give. Her final text arrives late at night, saying that if he wants to salvage the company's future, he better clean up this mess. Daniel, torn and exhausted, stops replying. He's focused on the child and on Elena, who's still deciding whether she can trust him again. For once, business takes a backseat in his mind. He feels a tidal wave of regret, realizing he's caused irreparable damage to people he once cared for, and also to his own reputation. Meanwhile, Elena watches the media storm with a numb heart. She sees Amelia playing the victim card, sees the hateful messages Daniel receives, and can't help but feel partly responsible. Even though she never intended to ruin the wedding, she fears her presence at that event will follow her and the unborn baby for years to come. This is a scandal that has changed all their lives forever. Holed up in his penthouse, Daniel finally faces the magnitude of his mistakes. His once orderly world, a blossoming empire, a grand wedding, public admiration, has come crashing down. Every newspaper, every gossip site, and every trending social media feed condemn him as the villain of the story. For the first time in years, he's not sure how to fix what he's broken. He tries to draft an official statement to quell the corporate panic, but his words ring hollow even to himself. How does he justify leaving Elena behind after she helped him rise? How does he explain that he was so wrapped up in ambition and Amelia's intoxicating optimism that he forgot the foundational love he shared with Elena? Memories of the simple wedding with Elena keep flooding back. He recalls the vow he made to love and cherish her above all else. The countless nights they spent brainstorming in cramped apartments. The feeling of her hand in his when he proposed. Regret stabs at his chest like a physical pain. He realizes that the person who once sacrificed everything for him was the one he left in the dust. So he decides to take a step back. He delegates major tasks at the company to his top managers. He cancels public appearances, ignoring calls from PR teams who insist he needs to salvage his image. He realizes that rebuilding a brand means nothing if he can't rebuild his own character first. In those lonely hours, Daniel makes a silent promise to himself. He won't run from this. He owes Elena an apology and a plan. Not just a flimsy apology, but a heartfelt gesture proving he's ready to take responsibility for his child and for the emotional wreckage he's caused. Whether Elena can ever forgive him remains uncertain, but he's determined to make a genuine attempt, no matter how hard it might be. Daniel shows up at Elena's apartment unannounced, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. Simple, nothing flashy. He's not even sure if she'll open the door. When she finally does, she stands there, belly more pronounced, eyes reflecting a wary mix of anger and vulnerability. Without waiting for an invitation, Daniel hands her the flowers. "I know I have no right to ask for anything," he begins, voice trembling, "but I'm here because I owe you a real apology." Elena crosses her arms, saying nothing. He takes a deep breath and pours out the confession that's been weighing on him. He admits he lost sight of what truly mattered, that he let ambition and validation guide his actions. He expresses regret for leaving her to deal with pregnancy alone and for letting someone else's admiration fill the void he should have handled differently. Tears well up in Elena's eyes as she listens. She wants to stay strong, but the sincerity in his voice breaks through her defenses. She's never heard him speak so openly about his failings before. Still, she doesn't rush into forgiveness. "Words are just words," she says quietly. "I need to see you take real responsibility. This baby isn't a trend you can pick up and drop whenever you want." Daniel nods, swallowing hard. "Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. I want to be a father to this child, and I want to make amends for the pain I caused." Silence hangs between them. She looks at the flowers in her hand, wild, imperfect blooms, and then back at Daniel. She finally steps aside, letting him enter her humble home. It's a small step, but for the first time in a long while, there's a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, healing is possible. In the weeks that follow, Daniel attempts to show he's committed to being there for Elena and the baby. He downsizes from his flashy penthouse to a more modest place closer to her apartment. He schedules regular doctor's visits, making sure Elena has the best medical care available. At first, she's skeptical, wondering if this is a PR move or genuine concern. But gradually, she starts to believe he's sincere. Every ultrasound appointment feels both joyous and tense. The baby's fluttering heartbeat reminds them of a future they share, regardless of their tangled history. Daniel holds Elena's hand during checkups, tears glistening in his eyes when he hears their baby's heartbeat for the first time. She can see how deeply it affects him. Outside these private moments, the world's still chaotic. Tabloids try to spin stories about Daniel's secret redemption arc or question Elena's motives. Amelia occasionally makes snide remarks to the media, suggesting Daniel is easily swayed by sentimentality. But Daniel shields Elena from as much negative press as he can. They sit down to discuss logistics, finances, living arrangements, possible shared custody once the baby arrives. It's uncomfortable at times, bringing up memories of what they once had and how drastically life has changed. But each conversation feels like a step toward stability. Elena sets boundaries, making it clear she's not ready for any talk of rekindling romance. "I need to focus on my well-being and the baby," she says. Daniel agrees, vowing he won't rush her into anything she's not ready for. He's just grateful she's allowing him a seat at the table, a chance to watch their baby grow. They're forging a fragile partnership out of necessity, but there's a growing respect between them, a respect that might just lay the groundwork for real healing. As months pass, Elena experiences the full spectrum of pregnancy's joys and discomforts. Morning sickness gives way to backaches and swollen ankles. Through it all, she remains determined to be self-reliant. She continues her bakery work part-time, refusing Daniel's offers to simply pay her bills. She wants to stand on her own 2 feet. In this process, Elena rediscovers an inner strength that had been overshadowed by her devotion to Daniel's dreams. She takes online courses in advanced marketing, slowly rebuilding her own career ambitions. She also joins a support group for expectant mothers where she connects with women who share struggles and triumphs. Every so often, Daniel stops by with groceries or a new prenatal care book he found. He sees how resilient Elena is, how she's not just the supportive wife he once knew, but now a woman charting her own path. It intrigues and humbles him. One afternoon, he accompanies her to a neighborhood event where she's helping promote small businesses. Watching her interact with local entrepreneurs passionately discussing marketing strategies, he realizes just how much she sacrificed for him before. He feels a pang of guilt, but also admiration. She's not the shy college girl anymore, she's a capable, self-assured woman. Elena catches him looking at her with pride in his eyes. For a moment, their gazes meet in a way that's oddly comforting. She notices he's changed too, less ego, more empathy. He's cut back on extravagant parties, focusing instead on ethical business practices and community engagement. She never imagined seeing this more grounded version of him. They're not rushing back into romance, but there's a budding respect between them. It's a fragile bond, yet it feels genuine. They're learning who they are as individuals, beyond the old roles of founder and supportive spouse. And in this new space, something quietly hopeful begins to blossom. After nearly losing everything, Daniel takes a good, hard look at himself and the kind of man he's become. He steps back from high-profile events, delegating more responsibilities to trusted team members. He's no longer interested in impressing superficial crowds or chasing the next glamorous partnership. Instead, he pours energy into projects that genuinely help people, like affordable tech solutions for small businesses. The media notices his withdrawal. Suddenly, he's not in every spotlight. Some publications question if he's lost his edge. Others speculate he's simply lying low to avoid more scandal. Daniel ignores the chatter. He's spent too long living under the weight of public opinion. Now, his focus is on rebuilding trust with Elena and preparing to be a responsible father. He also seeks therapy, hoping to understand the emotional void that led him to chase corporate success at the expense of personal values. During those sessions, he grapples with guilt and remorse. He comes face to face with how easily he was lured by admiration and status. Realizing he let down the woman who believed in him from day one is a punch to the gut, but it fuels his resolve to change. Occasionally, he visits the old garage where his startup took shape. The dusty desks and outdated equipment remind him of simpler times, when he and Elena were two dreamers ready to conquer the world together. He wonders if it's possible to rekindle some piece of that optimism in a healthier way. Quietly, he starts making amends, both in his personal relationships and in the workplace. He invests in employee wellness programs, ensures fair wages, and even sets up a scholarship fund in Elena's name, though he hasn't told her about it yet. Little by little, Daniel is transforming himself from a man driven by ego into one guided by humility and gratitude. Elena's due date approaches, and with it comes a whirlwind of hospital prep, last-minute baby supplies, and anxious nights. One evening, Daniel is dropping off a car seat he purchased, fumbling with the installation instructions in her living room. She laughs at how clueless he is about baby gear, a moment of shared levity that reminds them of simpler days. They sit down afterward, sipping decaffeinated tea, and he tentatively brings up the future. "I'm not asking for us to go back to how it was," he says, "but I do wonder if we can at least find some sort of fresh start. Maybe not as husband and wife, but as partners in raising this child." Elena hesitates. She remembers the heartbreak, the betrayal, how lonely she felt in that big condo. But she also recalls how he's shown up lately, apologetic, supportive, and genuinely transformed. She can't deny she still cares for him, even if that love is tangled in pain. "I'm open to building something new," she finally says, voice trembling. "But I'm not ready to jump into labels or big promises. Let's focus on the baby first, one step at a time." Relief floods Daniel's face. He reaches for her hand, stopping short, unsure if that's too much. She nods slightly, allowing him to hold her fingers. The connection feels warm, a quiet testament that healing might be possible. They talk for hours about parenting strategies, future schooling options, and how they'll handle holidays. It's the first time in a long while they've dreamed together without hostility or bitterness. Neither calls it a romantic reconciliation, but the spark of hope is there. Maybe after all the heartbreak, they can discover a second chance at love built on a stronger, more honest foundation. Finally, the day arrives. Elena goes into labor and Daniel rushes her to the hospital. They hold hands, tears of both anxiety and joy streaming down their faces. Hours later, they welcome a baby girl into the world. The moment Elena hears their daughter's first cries, she's overwhelmed with a love deeper than anything she's known. Daniel, cradling the baby, feels a surge of gratitude and awe. In that tiny hospital room, there are no chandeliers, no designer gowns, and no high-end investors. Just three people bonded by a profound experience. The nurse congratulates them, remarking how beautiful the baby is, and they exchange tired, relieved smiles. It's a far cry from the lavish life Daniel once chased, but it feels more real, more precious. Later, when Elena rests, Daniel steps out into the corridor. He looks out the hospital window at the city lights, reflecting on his journey. He's been broke, been rich, been adored, and been hated. But right now, none of that matters. What matters is the tiny new life in that hospital bassinet and the woman who risked everything to build a future with him. He returns to the room, gently sitting by Elena's bedside. She stirs, and their eyes meet. Neither says a word, but they share a silent understanding. Life has brought them full circle. Perhaps this time, they'll nurture the love that started in a college hallway, tested by ambition and betrayal, but ultimately sealed by a commitment to something bigger, their child. In that tender moment, they feel content, unburdened by showy weddings or million-dollar contracts. It's just them, the baby, and a promise to move forward with open hearts. And as they share a quiet smile, they both know they've found something far more valuable than any corporate empire, true, hard-earned family. So, what do you think about this story? Did you feel the heartbreak, the betrayal, and the eventual road to redemption? Share your comments, perspectives, and the lessons you learned in the comments section below. Also, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and share it with your friends if you found it engaging. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and insights mean the world. Thank you for being part of this journey.